Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us to hear me out for another session. Today, we are going to be talking about what we have learned this year. And even though it's not the end of 2022, I do believe that even so, we have learned a couple of things that,
Yes.
we could tell ourselves, like, what was the main thing so far that you really learned this year? So what was that? What was that for you?
We started with me.
We're starting.
Um, gee.
Or how before we get to the deep, then, did you learn a new skill this year? As small as, like, I learned how to use this new feature on Excel. Or, I learned how to do a new like embroidery or something. Did you learn a new skill?
Yeah. I learned the app. You know how
Oh, yeah.
we changed to a new app. So I mean, obviously I haven't mastered it, but I learned how to do some of the what are
Like
they?
the functions.
Yeah, functions and
For our church app.
yeah, for our church app. So that was interesting. I think this year okay. Okay, guys. So for 2020 and 2021, I was in charge of a lot of the Instagram posts.
Yeah.
And yes, we had a team, Janelli, shout out to Janelli. And she would do a phenomenal job. Until this day, her and Joe do a phenomenal job. But there were times where I was asked, and my work was not good because I don't have the eye for that. But this year, there's been a couple things that I've done that I'm like pretty proud of. I'm really like, oh, like I'm getting better.
Yeah.
I'm getting better at that, and I think I'm learning to, even in that, realize that that might not still be good enough for someone else, but it's good enough for me.
Yeah.
Versus last year, when I realized that it wasn't good enough for other people, I was like, yeah, you're right. And so this year, I feel like if people don't say anything, or even if people say something about like, dude, really, you did that, it's like, yes, I did, and I'm pretty proud of myself because, believe it or not, it's hard to make a flyer. It's hard to come up with a nice, that everything looks good. That
Fonts, guys.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem like a big deal, but just the way that it flows, it's hard.
Especially when you don't have the eye for it. I mean, a mí la tecnología terrifies me. It's just I'm not good at it. And so when I see something that I'm proud of, it's like, yes, I'm getting better. So yeah, that, and then what else? The app and that. And this year I started doing miniature embroidery. I've never done it, and it was fun. It was a lot of work. It definitely plays with my patience.
Yeah.
But I think I need it. I think I need to learn patience, and what a better way than to do it with something I enjoy already. Yeah.
So
that's on the
superficial mini skills.
On the more in depth, I've learned to how do I say this? I've learned that sometimes you might feel something, and it might still not be enough,
Right.
And I've learned that you can think you're giving, but in reality you are also expecting.
Okay.
And it's and in a way it's sort of wrong to put those expectations on the other person, especially when you never voice them. And it's sort of like, well, I'm expecting for this, or I'm expecting for that.
Happen.
I'm expecting for this to happen or that to happen. And it's like, well, and it's not happening. And so now you're feeling bitter because it didn't happen. But in reality, it's like, well, from the beginning, it was just you.
Yeah.
It was just you wishing it did. So I learned that how do I say this? That what you think is right and what you think is good and makes your heart flutter might not be good and right and might not make the other person's heart flutter. So
Sometimes things aren't always reciprocated.
yeah,
You're saying.
yeah, sometimes things are not always reciprocated, and that's okay. And that's okay because you have no control over that. You have no control over people's feelings, over even over your own sometimes. Like it's just so I think I learned, and I'm learning right now still to let go, of the make believe, to let go of the the illusion, to let go of what you think you wanted, or what you think what you saw yourself doing.
In other words, when you have something that's been built up in your mind and your heart and you're expecting it, you're working towards it, and coming to terms that that doesn't always happen, and dealing with that kind of disappointment, the reality of it.
Yeah, I think I'm still learning that. I'm still, I can't even put it into words. I had thank you for helping me put that more, into words. So yes, I think and I think the moral of the story is that I'm learning understanding
Okay.
and forgiveness, and to show compassion. I think I'm
In general.
in general, yeah, in general, and I think I had to experience whatever I experienced in order for me to realize that people's feelings are precious, and oftentimes we take them for granted, and we shouldn't.
We don't always realize if we've hurt someone,
Yeah.
we've disregarded someone. And yeah, it's true. It's not until you go through a situation where your feelings are disregarded, or, you're put down in that way, that now you realize, like, oh man, like,
Yeah.
I probably shouldn't have done that.
Yeah, I probably, and I think God has a really good sense of humor, because he's like, oh,
Te la voy a regresar.
like he's reverse Uno card. What's it?
Uno reverse
Uno
card.
reverse card. He's like, there you go. So I think I've and because of that I've become more sympathetic in that area, of like, okay, pues, thank you for your feelings. They're not reciprocated, but I'm not gonna play with them either.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I think that's a more meaningful thing that I'm still learning, and that I'm still learning, because I know by any means have I already been like, oh, I've learned it. I've learned my lesson. Move on.
Yeah.
No, I think I'm still processing all of it, but for the most part, that's what I'm taking away from. Like, it's okay. It's okay if if my feelings are not reciprocated. It's okay if they were at some point, but then they, it changes, and that's fine. That's completely fine. It's okay to want to invest in someone and want that and want that reciprocity, but if it doesn't happen, that is also okay. You need to let go. So I think I'm finding myself in a constant state of just let go. Let go.
It's interesting that you say that, because I think that we all go through that in different ways. I think that there are situations where, as basic as, I'm really excited about this, and I want everyone to be excited about this with me, and you don't get that. You know, you have people are like, it's not even a big deal, or why is this
Really?
exciting to you, you know? Or you have a mother who is trying to shower her child with love and understanding and compassion, and you know, I'm trying to help you in your future, and you have an unruly, you know, adolescent who is like, I don't care, I'm not going to listen to you, I don't respect you, y no valora la relación en lo que hace la mamá o lo que hace el papá until later in life. But you know, in that moment, it's like it's not reciprocated. The
Right.
respect or the obedience even is not reciprocated. And so I think that's in life. I think that it's in life that there are a lot of instances where you may want something to happen, or you may want to be understood, or you may want to be valued or loved, or
Justified.
yeah, just something that se te va a regresar, and then you're met with the exact opposite, or indifference, and that's in everything. I mean, you know, I'm also thinking of this in a job setting. You know, how many times haven't we, you know, worked hard on something, you know, in any kind of job, and it's like, it's just not good enough, you know, or it's not really what I wanted you to do, and you have put and invested and worked hard at something, and it's like, it's just not it, you know. So I think that is a very hard lesson to accept, but unfortunately it is a reality of life, that there will be a lot of instances in parenting, in marriage, in relationships, in careers, I mean, where you won't be always reciprocated.
Yeah.
And that is hard. That is definitely hard, because
Yeah, and I think also, I think I got a glimpse of how do I say this? Of how oftentimes, even with God, even with our relationship with God, we expect Him to do things for us. We expect Him to, you know, heal my wounds, and you know, give me that job that I want, and give me that promotion, and give me that car, and it's usually materialistic.
Yeah.
But I feel like, you know, we do that a lot of times, where we just see God as someone that is a provider, which He is. But I feel like we have a very crooked idea of what that is, and so it made me realize, or I'm realizing as I go, that a lot of the times we expect Him to do things for us. It doesn't happen, or it doesn't go our way, and it's like, then you're not God, or you're, you know, that's not how I wanted it done, or if you've done it for other people, why can't you do it for me?
Right.
You know, and
that attitude.
Or worse, you know, that attitude of like, bad people are having this and that and that. Why am I not having that? And I think I got to, because if I'm being honest, before I would question those people. I'd be like, dude, like, what are you saying? You know, and I don't think I understood them fully. I understood their flesh, like, okay, you're human, you know, but I don't think.
Felt like,
but what it felt that, I think it had been years since I really. Because for a very long time, I used to be a victim, and pobrecita de mí, and then I completely rejected that, and it was, and now I'm not that anymore, and I don't want to ever be that. And so whenever I see someone that might show that, I went to the other extreme. Now it's like, no, you know, no, that's not acceptable. Entonces me volví very hard on myself, and by default hard on people. And I had to go through this to realize that, no, you know, it's very easy to go down the hole of like, ¿por qué a mí?
Yeah.
You know, it's very easy to be like, God, you know, like,
Where are you?
Where are you? I've done this, I've done that. Pero la palabra dice que no por hechos, you know. And so obviously I'm thankful that I came out of that better, you know, and that I came out of that like, okay, no, I don't want to think that way. I don't want to. Now I understand people that feel that way.
Yeah.
But I for me, no lo quiero. I reject that. I don't want to stay with that. And then Shout out to Pastor. I had a conversation with him a couple weeks ago where he talked about how oftentimes we use eso de que la boca tiene poder, and we misuse it. We use it to say no hables como like maldiciones o más bien bendice, ¿verdad? A lot of people out there like to use the word manifested and todo eso. But he said something interesting. He said, but the reality of that verse is that la boca tiene poder porque tú, whatever comes out of your mouth, you're either giving the devil work or you're giving God glory. And so he was saying what he means by God, the devil work is like, por ejemplo, no me gusta ese hermano, no me cae bien esa hermana, o no me cae bien esto, o no me esto, y no me aquello, y todo negativo, o, ¿por qué a mí? ¿Por qué mi vida es tan fea? ¿Por qué me estaban pasando estas cosas? ¿Por qué esto? ¿Por qué aquello? That is plenty of material for that devil to be like, okay, so you don't like that?
Where you struggle.
Yeah, exactly. So you're pretty much telling the devil, where are the areas you struggle? And he'll make sure he'll reaffirm those ideas you already have in your mind. So for example, I don't like that sister. Oh, you best believe on Sunday, something's going to happen that you're going to be like, yep, right, that is why I don't like her. And then that's going to continue and that's going to continue. And then there's going to it gets to a point where it's like, now it almost feels like everyone should dislike that person. Everyone should be in agreement with me. And
I loathe you.
Yeah, And so and that's with anything. That's with anything. And so that's what Pastor said. That really means you are giving power to the devil with your mouth. Wherever you speak, that's already, like, again, it's giving material to him or it's giving glory to God. And so, and obviously he said, what you want to do is give glory to God. You want to say, God, thank you for this. God, thank you. God, thank you for, por la vida, por la salud, por my job, for my kids, there's a lot of things we take for granted.
Yeah.
Because we're just focusing on that house we want, that car we want, that promotion we want, or whatever it is that you're wishing, but it's not God's intent.
Yeah.
And then Pastor actually went deeper. He said, and then you have to look into what you're thinking. Because, okay, don't voice it first. That's the first step. Don't voice it. But then, what are you thinking? What are you thinking? En la Biblia dice que cuando Jesús les dice, ¿cómo va esa palabra que dice que no vino él a quitar la ley de Moisés, sino él la vino a implementar aún más? Porque dice que la ley de Moisés dice, no robarás, ¿verdad? No codiciarás a la mujer de tu vecino. Pero yo les digo que si tú ya lo pensaste, es como si ya lo hubieras hecho.
Yeah.
And so Pastor was saying, Jesus,
to the root.
Exactly. Jesus was saying, no, you need to nip it here. You need to stop it here, because
before it becomes an act.
Before it becomes here, and then it becomes an act.
Have you dealt with it in your mind?
In your mind. Porque Jesús dice, es como si lo hicieras, ¿verdad? O sea, si ya estás pensando en robar, es como si ya hubieras robado. Si ya estás pensando en mentir, es como si ya hubieras mentido. And for a lot of people out there, God is very black and white. I'm sorry, I'm sorry to say this, because I feel like we live in a world where we like gray areas.
Right.
We like, this lukewarm attitude. But no, Dios es negro y blanco. ¿Te va a vomitar o te va a hacer, no. And so, Jesús was saying, si lo estás pensando, ya no tardas en hacerlo. Ya no tardas to engage in that behavior.
Yeah.
You need to cut it there. So when I'm having this conversation with Pastor, and I'm thinking, oh my God, like,
what am I thinking?
What am I thinking? Because okay, I feel like I'm yes, there are days where I make mistakes y lo digo. But for the most part, I'm very good at my tongue. I'm very good at holding my tongue. Pero luego dije, pero then he started saying, pero empieza aquí. Like, yes, that's a good step to que no dejes que salga.
There.
You know, start there.
Get to baby steps.
Yeah, start there. Pero you really have to deal with it here. And it's like, okay, you know what? Sí, cierto. And so once I had that conversation with Pastor, I started thinking, no, I can't have that attitude of like, okay, I might not voice it, but I can't have that attitude of like, porque me pasó a mí, o porque esto, or negativity, you know, in general. Like, no, no me va a hacer bien. For sure, I wasn't feeling good when I was thinking that, you know. So I thought, and then I thought, I think I shared it with you, and I started saying things of like, I might not feel it, pero I declare this, I declare that, I declare, you know, I declare, and I started really, and I think that was my first step of realizing it's true.
Yeah.
It's true, because when I started voicing it, it did something in my brain of like, yeah, I wasn't feeling it when I voiced it, but after listening, I started feeling it. I started feeling peace and forgiveness and understanding and compassion and love. And I thought, man, nuestra boca sí tiene poder.
Yeah, of course.
It's just we've been misusing it for like, pues yo declaro bendición, yo declaro y no está mal, no estoy diciendo que está mal, pero I feel que cuando dices, yo declaro que Dios me va a dar esa casa.
Right.
I don't know, ¿verdad?
I agree with you.
Mm-hmm.
I also think that the power of what we say, the power of the tongue is so, it's such a important issue.
Right.
Because what comes out of your mouth has the influence on others.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and especially as children of God, it is our job to build, and that's a hard thing.
Yeah.
It's a hard thing to speak life when you're human.
Yeah.
You know, and you have your flaws, and you know, we all have had those moments where someone has annoyed us, or there's some chisme or whatever, that it's now no longer me having an issue of not controlling what I say and saying something negative or saying something that isn't really bringing life. Now I am inputting that into you. And now we are both now talking about this person. Now we are both judging that person. And so it becomes a collective effort, you know? And so, yeah, I definitely agree with you that, you know, the power of the tongue, but it's also your mind. Yeah. I definitely resonate with that, because that's where I can honestly say, I've been working on. That's not the area right now that I can say I've learned. That's the area I'm working on, my mind. And I've shared this in the past within my podcast. I can tend to be very paranoid in the sense of like, I do tend to think the worst in situations. And, you know, it starts off like as a joke. It starts off as like, oh, it's not even a big deal, you know, it's this or that. But the more that I, you know, dissect it, the more that I think about it, I realize why do I think this negatively? Why do I think the absolute worst, you know? And so, yeah, I definitely think that is my next goal, you know, this year and for the rest of this year, to get a hold of how I'm thinking, you know, because Joel has told me this all the time, you know, he says, he's like, when you think these things and then you say these things, I do believe you attract these things. And it kind of goes in line with what you're saying. You are giving the enemy material to work with, hey, you know, you're saying this, and so let's see if she falls. And so I definitely agree with that. I definitely agree that we have to be mindful about what we say and what we think. I mean, something as simple as, you know, I'm stupid. Yeah. I'm dumb. I'm ugly. I'm fat. I'm never gonna, I would never do that. I could never get a man, you know, like literally, like, you know, it's a joke. It sounds like a joke, you know, but like,
but it's reality.
It's reality, you know, like, and I'm not calling anybody out. I'm speaking for me, you know, like something as simple as a headache, it's probably a stroke, you know? And so like, I definitely think we sometimes speak in a way that it's like, we don't even realize that we're self-loathing. You know, that this is really damaging because this is what's coming out. Y como dice la palabra de Dios, de la abundancia habla la boca. From the depths of your heart is what comes out of your mouth. So if this negative thing, something as simple as I'm stupid, is coming out, and you're saying this in a way like, I don't care who hears me, I don't care like what anybody says, it's coming from somewhere.
Yeah.
And, you know, you might not say, oh, I think I'm really horrible, or you maybe don't hate yourself to that point, but still, like, it is coming from somewhere.
Yeah.
And so, yes, 100%, I would agree with you that, like, getting a hold of your mind is an extremely necessary thing, but it's hard. It's super hard to get control of.
Yeah.
And as like I'm saying, like, I'm still working on that, but, like,
Years of experience.
It's
gonna take that, yeah. But to bring it back, what about for you? What are some of the things you've learned, new things you've learned this year, if you have, that are on the surface?
Superficial?
Yeah, on the superficial.
I think, hey guys, this is where I am in life. I mastered red rice this year. I mastered the Mexican red rice thanks to my mother-in-law. She had a specific recipe that I wrote it down, and you know, I'm not going to reveal because, hey, it's going to be my recipe.
Kudos.
But like, I became really good to the point that Joel was like, wow, babe, like, it's because, you know, I would either make it too mushy or I would make it too thin, and I couldn't find the balance in between that, and I finally did. Y bien de sal y todo. So that's like a superficial skill, I would say.
Which really, I mean, yes, and it's not.
Cooking in general has been a big one for me.
Yeah, but overall, it's just, I think,
I made gorditas de chicharrón this year.
Ooh. But overall, I think, for maybe because I see it with Bere. Bere loves to cook. And for me, cooking is... How do I say this? It's almost like a spiritual thing.
What do you mean?
Like, I know.
Okay. It takes faith to make sure it cooks.
No, not just that, but I think... Okay, I am a firm believer, and I mean, don't quote me on this. You guys might have a different... But I do think that la comida sabe buena cuando cocinas con amor.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and so that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think it's just, I learned red rice. It's, ¿por qué lo aprendiste?
For Joel.
Exactly. Out of love, to cook better, to be better for someone, to have someone say, dude, this is good. You know, you did a good job.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean. That's what I mean is, for example, my mom cooks very, very, very plain and very simple. Like, it's very rare that she does something that is like, oh my goodness, guisado, you know?
Yeah.
But hasta la sopa le sabe buena. Why? Porque lo hace con amor. Lo hace con ese de, I want you to enjoy it.
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, obviously, me giving meaning to rice, but I'm just saying, you know, I think it's a big thing.
It is. I definitely agree. And you know, it made me think that, this is going to sound super self-serving, I've never cooked angry. I don't believe in that. And that's something that my sister taught me. She was like, if you don't do something with all your heart in regards to your marriage, you shouldn't do it. And she used that example in the simplest things, you know, cooking, cleaning, you know, taking care of your home, being with your husband, you know, in general. Like, if you're not going to do it genuinely, you shouldn't participate in it, because you're going to mess it up. And there have been those days where it's like, I genuinely don't feel like cooking, or I'm not in the mood for cooking. And I thank God my husband is very, you know, like, it's all good. Me voy a hacer un estrellado, and he's chilling. But yes, when I do cook with joy. But I would say the next skill was for technically Joel and I. this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
I think for him,
Yeah.
it was definitely the mechanical, technical side of it, like the mixer, and I don't even know if that's the right terminology. The mics.
This box.
Yeah, this thing that is nice and it has colors. That was definitely a thing. But for me, it was the editing. So I've done all the video editing for this. I've done our YouTube channels for the both of us. And so I know that, like, I know our videos need a lot of work. Thank you, everyone who gives us suggestions. And so, you know, yeah, obviously, like, we have a long way to go, but, like, I'm proud that, like, I have a system right now, you know, and I hope to be better. I hope that one day we have a super amazing camera and, like, we're in HD, todo, ¿verdad? But as of right now, I'm very proud of that. And I find a lot of enjoyment in making videos. Like, I have a secret channel that I have, like, my videos.
Right.
And so, like, I post that just for friends and family. And I love editing our travel videos and putting music and all of that. And so I feel like I've gotten better in that this year. And that's just been like a side hobby for Joel and I in our family. But something meaningful that I've learned this year. I think what I've learned, I think this is something that most people learn early on, but for me, it just happened. And so don't judge. I've learned that in order for me to be the woman that God intended me to be, I need to go through difficult times. And as simple as that is, it's true. It's through adversity that you become better.
Right.
And for the longest, growing up, trying to have a successful relationship with God, a consistent relationship with God, I always prayed, God, change me. God, make me better. God, make me more compassionate, more merciful, more forgiving, more. I want this unconditional love, right? I've gone through some stuff this year. Oh my God. And I know that I have a long way to go. 100%. But I can honestly say that it was through those experiences that are shaping me. And like I said, you know, it's something that is going to be a lifelong journey. It's why I'm a firm believer in someday having children, because I can only imagine what that's going to do for me as a woman, as a child of God. But in my marriage, as a daughter, these last 2 years, I've learned so much, you know, and I know that, you know, you could, if you were going to try to read between the lines, I'm like, oh my God, her marriage is horrible. What's she going through that, you know, what's the adversity, you know? But in these last 2 years, I've really learned how to love my husband. I've learned how to love my mom and my siblings, because it's been through the difficult experiences that we've gone through in these last 2 years as a family, as a couple in general, that have made me to be self-aware. And that's a big thing, because if it wasn't for me being aware, hey, this is where you're struggling, you need to consistently be analyzing yourself, your heart, your mind, your intentions, your thoughts. Why do you do the things that you do? Why do you say the things that you say? Why did you react that way? Why did you talk to Lula in that way? Why did you talk to Joel in that way? In general, the more self-awareness that I've had this year, the more our relationship has improved, the more my marriage has improved, the more my relationship with my mom has improved. And so all of that was through hard times. And I think for the longest, I really kind of like, you know, that expectation, you know, like I expected to wake up one day and just be it. You know, I'm gonna be Christ-like. I'm gonna be like Jesus and have all these qualities and not have had to go through anything and just be that. And it's just not it, you know? And so as I continue to work on myself, there's a lot of things that I'm determining this year. I don't want to be this way. I don't want to act like that. I don't want to react like that. But in just these last 2 years, I'm excited that I'm changing. You know, I'm excited that I'm growing, you know, because to me, it's like there's hope. There's hope that I can be, hopefully one day, help to someone else. Hopefully someday be, you know, wow, when I spoke to this sister or this person, I walked away better from that conversation. I took something from that. I hope to one day be the kind of woman that my husband is just like, I'm better because of her. Like, this is the woman that God had for me. Pero todo eso nomás puede suceder if I determine myself at the end of every day, I need to change. I need to get whatever it is. I need to work on this. I need to work on that. So that's definitely been the main thing this year. Like, just like understanding that bad things, like, and I always thought like this was like, oh my gosh, you're super spiritual if you say this, because who is going to have joy in hard times? Who is going to give thanks during tribulations and during trials? I believe it's Philippians, but that says this, or if not, it's James. I don't know. It's one of those. And I remember reading that and just being like, ¿Quién va a dar gracias? Thank you, Jesus, that I'm going through this. But at the same time, I realize that it's out of that something births, that something beautiful comes out. And think of a mother. It's out of pain. It's out of tears. It's out of gritos even, that a beautiful life is here. Yeah. That's what's happening in my life. That's what's happening in the last 2 years since I've gotten married, since everything with Dad. I'm changing and I'm growing, and not that I'm excited necessarily for the next thing that hits me per se, but I will say that regardless of what comes my way and however I handle it in that way, I do know this: God's faithfulness and God's promise in my life is that if I stick with Him, everything's going to work out for good. Yeah. And that's what's happened in my life. I've stuck with Him. I'm not the perfect Christian. I don't read 8 hours a day and pray 8 hours a day and fast every Wednesday like we should. But even so, I've stuck with God. I've clung to God. And in that, I have seen God's hand in my life, in my marriage, in my family. And that's what's given me that motivation of like, I know you're gonna take care of us as we go through this. Right. And now it's not even just that assurance in my life. It's so-and-so that's important to me is going through this. God's going to take care of you because you're a child of God. And as long as you stick with Him, you're going to be okay. And it's that faith that I feel growing inside of me. I feel like what I've told my mom. You know, the other day, I was talking to my mother-in-law. We were talking about different things, and she was telling me a story of where she had to rebuke a situation. She just rebuked. And I thought to myself, I want to be like that. I want to get to a point where a mí no me da miedo. En el nombre de Dios te reprendo. You know, to have that faith, to have that just, no. I am a woman of God, and I know that there's a line. Yeah. And you don't have any part here. Speaking in terms of spiritual warfare y todo eso. Entonces, that's definitely what I feel like I've learned. And I think I've learned not exactly like the same experience that you've had, but I know I struggle with this. I think a lot of people struggle with this, where it's easy to dish it, but not exactly to take it. and sometimes that's hard, you know, where like, it's so easy to be like, you're this and you're that, and you're Lula, you need to work on that, and you need to be this way. And then it's like, all right, let me tell you what you need to work on. And it's like, like, okay. And so I think that although I'm still working on it, I think I'm slightly better this year than last, which gives me hope that next year I'll be better than this year. And so those are the main things. And I'm sorry for crying. I hate that I cried.
No.
But at the same time, like, it's just, it's a good thing.
Yeah.
It's a good thing because, like I said, I don't want you guys to be like trying to figure out what's going on in my life necessarily. But at the same time, what I am trying to say is don't lose hope. Don't lose hope in whatever or situation you find yourself in, because when you cling to God and you stick with him, things will get better. It's a promise of God, and you will become better. You will grow. You will become the person that you're meant to be, and there's nothing better that can happen out of that.
Which is what I think you conveyed with your tears. That realization that I was suffering during those times or those situations, but now I see that God was everywhere around those situations. Like he was at the beginning, during, middle, at the end. He's still here, and I think you realize that he's been there because you've stuck with him as well, right? And unfortunately, a lot of people don't realize that God is with them because they haven't stuck with him. Because they're like, where are you? You know, like we were saying a moment ago, it's very easy to say, ¿Dónde estás?
Yeah.
You know, like, ¿por qué pasa esto? You know, and then the dangerous part is if you drift, or if you're like, okay, no, eso no, I can't think like that. Si yo soy una hija de Dios y según tengo fe, por ahí no es.
Yeah.
You know, and so you need to bring yourself back and, okay, no, I'm gonna stick to you and I'm gonna cling to you, and you'll figure it out. You'll figure it out, because it's obvious that I haven't, you know, so God, take the wheel, please. You know, and I think in a sense we're talking about the same lesson.
Yeah.
You know, I think we're talking about the same lesson. God has his plan.
God's in control.
God is in control, and I was listening to Jordan Peterson, and he was saying something very interesting, that I think it's written in a lot of parts of the Bible, that the cure to suffering is suffering. How interesting is that? But it's not just suffering, but it's your willingness to say, okay, let's take that on. Yeah. You know, let's take that on. And I think, I mean, obviously, don't quote me on this. Please, pastors, don't come at me. But I think that's what it means to pick up your cross. You know, do it willingly. La vida sometimes va a ser dura.
Yeah.
You know, situaciones van a pasar. Y let's not even say la vida. Uno a veces la complica. Uno hace decisiones que you're like, really, you know? Why? And hay consecuencias. And even then, God is merciful. God shows grace, you know, and he's you know, whenever pastor talks about how God finds a balance, a perfect balance between his justice and his grace.
Yes.
It's just, it's overwhelming sometimes. It's like, really? Like, I know I felt that. I know God has shown me that. But then you need to go through another situation to really make it yours. Really, like, yes, I know that.
And it really depends on how you're going to respond to the situation. Mm-hmm. Because, you know, we've been quoting Pastor a lot, and let's quote him again. Pastor's always telling me this. I taught you this, Kez. I taught you this, Kez. Since I've been 20, he always talks about this. There is a difference between the permissive will of God and the perfect will of God.
Right.
The perfect will of God would not necessarily have you go through that situation that you're going through. But the permissive will of God is that he allows things to happen because we have free will.
Right.
There are some instances that we go through because of the decisions that we make. Yeah. Yes, some things are completely out of our control. It's the nature of things, and that's what happens. But when it's regarding our will, right? We make a decision. Now we're in this situation because of a decision that I made, because of a mistake that I made. I got to go through this. It's how we respond to that.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's the problem. When we forget that there are two realities, we look at that and we're like, God, why would you allow this?
Mm-hmm.
Why would this happen in my life? Now, in some cases, like with Dad, it's like, it was a natural thing.
Mm-hmm.
But there are instances where I'm like, God, why did you allow this to happen? It's like,
Did I?
Did I? Or did you?
Uh-huh.
Did you do this?
Yeah.
And now it's how I respond to that.
Mm-hmm.
It's how I let go of perhaps my disappointment in God. What I'm thinking, God is not involved in my situation. God is not involved in my life. God doesn't care about my future. It's letting go of that mindset and realizing, you know what? I may have put myself in this situation.
Mm-hmm.
It's time for me to respond to this in a different way,
Right.
and understand that I can only go up from here.
Mm-hmm.
And the only way that I can do that is if I redirect my steps and I go back to putting God first in my life.
Yeah.
And that is in everything,
Mm-hmm.
in every aspect. And so I've learned that as well this year. You know, there are just some things that we go through, and it's not because God is out to get you. It's not because God wants you to just be in misery. There are some things that we need to take ownership for.
Mm-hmm.
And we also need to make a decision. Okay, I'm already here. I already made the mistake. What am I going to do from this point on?
Yeah. How can I rectify it?
How can I rectify it?
Yeah. I think that's a lesson that it's for life.
Yeah.
That it's for life, because there's going to be, I think we were talking about it the other day about how es triste cuando estás viviendo un momento feliz and you're constantly thinking, oh no, algo va a pasar, algo va a pasar. It's
Right.
too good to be
Right.
true. It's too good to be true. Pero también es triste when you're living a happy moment and you completely forget to be thankful for that happy moment. Right? Or even on the negative. Like you're in a very negative situation, very dark situation, and you forget to and you think, oh, this is gonna last forever. I'm gonna stay in this dark hole for, like, this feeling is going to last me toda mi vida.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna get over it. And you paranoid in the other spectrum now. And then you forget to be thankful. But not just forget, now you're even complaining, like, ¿por qué a mí me pasa esto? ¿Cuándo se va a acabar? Yo que soy justo, yo que soy tu servidor, yo que ya he vivido, yo que ya he sufrido muchas cosas, ¿por qué me siguen pasando cosas? And so, es una constante lucha.
Yeah.
Es una constante lucha porque tampoco en tus happy moments no puedes estar pensando todo el tiempo a ver qué va a pasar, a ver qué malo va a pasar. Pero en tus negative moments tampoco puedes estar pensando this is going to last forever. You know? And then in your happy moments you need to be thankful. And then in your negative moments you need to be thankful. And stop not complaining, but stop blaming God. Stop thinking that it was him or the lack of him. You know, and it is, and I think that yes, there are people that manage it. There are people that do it. There are people that are, you know, you can tell they're walking with God. And
You're like, what are you doing?
yeah, and, you know, and there are, you know, there are peasants like us, you know, that are just like, yep, this is a year where I struggle with it. This is the year where God is really showing me, like, he's really showing me you need to be thankful every time.
Yeah.
You know, not just cuando las cosas te van bien. No, ahí te va una negative para que veas, you know, y para que tú también te des cuenta de qué tú estás hecho. And so I think that is, yeah, that is why we struggle a lot of the times, porque no entendemos esa dualidad de la gracia del did you say permissive?
Permissive will of God and
yeah.
perfect will of God.
That how we don't understand the permissive will of God and the perfect will of God, and a lot of the times lo tenemos. We've given it a meaning for to our convenience.
Yeah.
you know. And so pensamos que Dios should only be merciful and good and giving
All loving.
and all loving. And the reality no es esa.
Every decision we make has
Every
a consequence,
decision.
both good or bad.
Yes, yes. And we go back to Eclesiastes. Todo pasa. Todo es vanidad. O sea,
It's all meaningless.
it's all meaningless, you know. And then para todo hay seasons. Lo bueno también termina. Lo malo también termina. O sea, I think what the bigger lesson is, enjoy it while you can, and while you're having that bad moment, take the good out of it and
Take
be
what you
thankful.
can.
Take what you can
Make the best of it.
and
in
make the
reality.
best of it. And it's just, esto de ser
It's a
cristiano
lot.
es difícil.
It's a lot. No, but you know what? I think the good thing about being a Christian is that, you know, I know that we say, you know, we have to run the race. But it's really not a race in the sense that you're competing against the next person to see who wins this race. It's however you finish the race, just finish
it.
Whether you're going to walk, whether I've heard this, whether you need to crawl, whether you need to sprint, run the race.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that there are times that, like, I've really just, I'm crawling, man. I'm crawling to get to the finish line. But again, to not sound self-serving, but this year I feel like I've had a sprint. I feel like this year I had some consistency, and I'm just like, you know what? I'm going through this, but it's good, and I'm gonna get somewhere. And so, you know, we always try to find, you know, the humor, and then at the same time the meaning in what we're talking. And so, if this is hitting anyone this year, you know, by the way, we definitely encourage you guys to always feel free to, like, comment your own experiences on the chat. But at the same time, if this is resonating with you by any means, the reason why we brought this topic up was to show you that we don't know it all. You know, like, yes, we like talking, and we like to have our podcast, and, you know, but we're not experts.
Yeah,
you know,
not
not in life, not in marriage, not in friendship. You know, we're not experts. We just like to share. But at the same time, be comforted that, you know, these are things that we're going through. Maybe you've already learned that. Maybe you're listening to the podcast, you're like, man, I can't believe they're barely going through that and they're getting that. Or you might also be like, man, that's where I'm at. I'm also going through that. I'm also learning something. And so, at least on my end and what I'm going through, don't be discouraged. You know, there's still time.
Yeah.
And there's still time to grow. There's still time to learn. And if you need to just crawl to get to the finish line, do what you can. What they say, do you, boo-boo? just do what you can, and you'll get there.
Yeah, I think God has, I just said it. He has such a great sense of humor that you know, you think you have something down. He's like, really? Let me see. Let me allow this to happen and see how you deal with that. Yeah. And oftentimes, which what I would say more often than not, is just us living out the consequences of our actions. But I do think that there are times where, for example, you were saying, you know, we just expect to wake up one day and be all those good things that we want to be. And you know, lo and behold, God is like, well, that's not how things work.
Yeah.
You know, you need to go through situations to learn that. Si sabes hacerlo. Porque también hay gente que goes through life living one thing after another, one situation after another, and they never learn.
Yeah.
Y qué triste. Qué triste sería que el mal de todos tus males es porque no has aprendido.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, it's just
like Pastor always says this in his preachings, you know, if you're still struggling with the same thing after 30 years, that's a problem. What's going on?
Problem.
You know, and yes, I think that in some things, you know, it's, you know, like I tend to get upset or something, you know. I think
impatient.
Like, you know, I'm impatient. You know, I think that there are some things we will forever struggle with, but like, there are some things that it's like you really need to get a hold
Yeah.
on this is a damaging, or this is a toxic trait that you need to do away with,
Yeah.
in order for you to be able to enter the next season of your life, whatever that is for you. You can't get into that with that, and so
and so like Kez was saying, to for our listeners, if you've already experienced it, then be of comfort to others. I would say, be encouraged to encourage others to but if you're going through something similar, or if you find it difficult to be a Christian, I would say to really just
just getting by.
If you're just getting by and you feel like you're not doing enough or whatever, and you might as well not be doing enough. That is true. I think a lot of the times, at least in my life, I feel like the times where I've struggled the most are the times where I've drifted away from God, are the times where I thought I was reading my Bible but I wasn't, where I thought I was praying but I wasn't praying. And I think you can tell when a person is walking with God. You can tell when a person is having a relationship with God by the way they treat others, by the way they lead their lives, by the way they speak, by the way they convey that relationship with God, and I want to be that. I think we all, I think it'd be unwise of anyone to think, oh, I don't want to be that. No, you do. We should. We should be that light. We should be that for people and I think this year we've learned that God is in control, and we might still struggle with that, and we might still find ourselves, kind of like, I want some of that control, God. Let me do my own thing. But I am positive about the future. I am thinking, okay, if God is in control, then he knows best.
Yeah.
He knows best. He knows better than I do. Leave it up to him. He doesn't need my help with that plan. He doesn't need me to have a plan B. Recently we've heard that preaching. He doesn't need my input. And a lot of the times we want to be Sarah and be like, whoa, here's Hagar, and and that's the plan B. And what happens is that God will tell us, no, that's not my plan. That is your plan, and now you're gonna live with those consequences. And God can be graceful enough to still give us the plan, the original plan, and He cannot. Si no le da la gana, pues es Dios, es soberano, Él va a hacer lo que Él quiere. And so...
Yeah. And, I would like to add, to our non-Christian listeners, I know that, you might be thinking, so then if I am not a Christian, like, there's no promises for me necessarily. No, that's not the message. I think that what we're also trying to share is, like, this is also something that we have found purpose and meaning in.
Mm-hmm.
And in our relationship with God, that is what's made us have the perspective that we have, in understanding, like, Lord, I'd rather give it to you. And sometimes in life, we carry so much, we put so much burden, so much of our own efforts, like, I'm gonna be the one that's gonna get me to the next level. I'm gonna be the one that's gonna change myself or achieve what I can, and that's good and all, but from my experience, it's so much more freeing when you have that person you can lean on. And for us, that's God. For us, that is, in Him I find my refuge. In Him I find my strength. In Him I find reason to keep moving forward. Mm-hmm. And so, even if you don't believe or you do believe, look at your life this year and look back at what were some of the things that you went through this year that were significant, that you could say, man, I'm not the same person because of this, and I'm here now because of this, and take that and let that be also a hope for you, of what tomorrow is going to look like for you, of what tomorrow is going to bring. But also, as we've shared this in the past, if you're curious, if you're, you know what, like, I want to experience that perspective, or I want to experience that in my life, we definitely will always encourage that. We will definitely always say, you know what, give God a try. If you've never tried God in your life, try it. And we're going to end with a prayer. And if you feel like that is speaking to you, we definitely encourage you to join us in this prayer. And so,
dear God, thank you so much for this opportunity. Thank you so much for this time, this beautiful time that you allowed us. We want to grow in wisdom, God. We want to grow in hunger for you, for your word. A lot of the times we go through life taking a lot of things for granted, a lot of what you give to us for granted, and we thank you for those reminders. We thank you for those situations that either you allowed or you even yourself created for us to go through them. We thank you because we've learned, we've grown. We can only look forward to what you have in store for us, because there is plenty of room for improvement in both Kezia and I, and I would say even our listeners, God. So we ask you, God, that you make us grow in wisdom, that you allow us to be more compassionate, to be more understanding, to grow in love, in that love that only belongs to you. We ask that you bless our listeners, that if they're going through a rough time, that you're the one that they find comfort in, and then that they find peace with. We ask, God, that you bless their homes, that you bless their lives, that if they're going through a happy moment, that they're thankful for that happy moment, that they're enjoying that happy moment. If they're going through a rough time, that they also find gratitude in that, and that they also manage to somehow see that you are still there with them, God.
and we take this time, Lord, to pray for our listeners. Lord, if there's anyone, Lord, that is in this time having an open heart to you, Lord, I pray that you reveal yourself to them. I pray that you see that prayer. I thank you for this time that we have, that we get to share and talk, and I pray that you continue to work in us, in our lives, to be able to be the women that you intended us to be impactful, and to share the love that you have given us, Lord. In Jesus' name we pray.
Amen. Amen.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Bye, guys.